Hey everybody, Rhett Weaver here from Lifetime Home Loans. Want to talk to you about what's going on this week. Some of the best news I've heard in a very long time just came out today. And I want to go over it really fast here. And it's more just about reading this top paragraph that's sitting behind me, which is Fannie and Freddie has been kind of under a conservatorship, which means a judge has appointed somebody different to oversee them or appointed someone to oversee what their regulation is going to be like. Sounds like Fannie and Freddie are going to go public. The biggest thing here, the biggest scare that was with interest rates was, would the government step in if there was going to be a problem, or what is called an implicit guarantee? And to describe what an implicit guarantee is, if we type it in ChatGPT, really what it is just somebody that is going to guarantee that if there was a risk on an asset, they would be able to step in. And so Trump came out very loud yesterday and today and said, hey, there will still be an implicit guarantee here, even if Fannie and Freddie go public, that the government will be able to step in or take control if something were to happen, which is huge news because then we're going to see the bond market get better and not worse. And then Scott Bessent, who is the secretary right now of the Treasury, has basically come out and talked a lot about the spread between the 10-year and the 30-year. So what I mean by that is whenever we show you guys interest rates, and let me come over to this because this will explain it a little bit better. But anytime we show you basically what's happening, we always talk about 30 years, which are mortgage-backed securities. Then we talk about the 10-year Treasury. Right now, the spread on them is just too wide. So if they can get it within 2% of each other, then interest rates are going to get a lot better. So he's going to work extremely hard on that. Basically, what we're saying here is Scott Bessent wants to work towards really getting the 10-year down to 3.9, 3.8%. We're at 4.4 right now. And then work on the 30-year, bringing that down as well. And now they're predicting because of this great movement with the banks being able to buy treasuries. And now that it's not going to be, they're going to basically deregulate that it's not a risk on an asset anymore. So for example, whenever we go ahead and we put money inside of the banks, they can give us a small percentage of interest because they're going to go ahead and leverage our money to lend it back out, right? And that's how banking kind of works. But there's going to be basically a cap on that. And before any treasuries that was bought was going to be part of that cap, it kind of sounds like that this will not be a risk on an asset anymore, allowing the banks to go out and buy more treasuries. Now, obviously, it has not been hadn't been talked about if they're going to go buy 10-year treasuries or mortgage-backed securities or what they're going to go do really with all of this money. But the good part about this here is if we can see treasuries be bought and these assets being held and they're not being sold off like they have been over the last few weeks here, this means the mortgage-backed securities are going to get a little bit better here. So when we take a look at the bond market as far as what's going on today, again, if this is your first time here kind of looking at this, green means interest rates are obviously getting a lot better. They're going lower. Red means that interest rates are going higher. And so as you can see, as we've seen this little turn since late last week, that we've been having a little bit of progress on things getting a little bit better. Obviously, what we need to pay attention to is we've got some Fed minutes coming out today. Today is Wednesday. We got to pay attention to those notes. Kind of seems like there's been enough Fed members talking over the last month here that nothing's going to be too shocking. And then we got a big inflation report coming out at the end of the month. So they don't believe that inflation is necessarily going to go up or come down. It should hold relatively in the same spot that it's sitting right now. So there's not a whole lot of prediction that a whole lot is going to go on the bond market. We should see rates kind of just sit here and hold flat for a little bit. But some really good news here that if Fannie and Freddie end up going public, that President Trump did come out and say they're going to back this, which we should see that risk or really not be that big anymore. Like a lot of people were predicting that if they did go public, that was going to happen. And we should see really a lot more banks start to buy treasuries or assets, which should help the bond market get a little bit better here. And now they're sitting here predicting again that interest rates should get down towards 6% here with what Scott Bessent is really just kind of predicting with the U.S. Treasury and what's going on here. So some of the best news I've heard in a long time, obviously with all this Treasury scare and everything that's been happening there. Sorry, not Treasuries, with the tariff scare and everything that's been happening there with the tariffs. And is that going to cause inflation and things like that? This is really going to help us as far as the bond market with mortgage rates and, with people buying and selling. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.